right, welcome back everybody to our HNR radio podcast and our conversation with Lisa Murphy. We are so glad to have you back.
So talk to me a little bit about more of the ninja mindset. Okay, because the first day and a half is all about mindset.
Yes.
And it's interesting too, the reason they call it an installation versus training, and they talk about this, I think, at the everyday installation, is they're really there to try and install a different belief system.
Yes.
And habits that are repeatable. And I heard Don say yesterday, the Ninja system is a system designed to work in any market, being geographic, in any market conditions, whether it's a seller's market, buyer's market, recession, whatever the case may be. It is kind of market proof. And so tell me a little bit about like some of the things that you do on a consistent basis to kind of help you achieve the results that you've achieved.
Sure.
Rookie of the year and all that good stuff. So
I think one of the things that the Ninja installation teaches you is that you have a choice of, it's that perspective, but like not playing the victim role. And I think that things happen, but I think that you have to acknowledge that doesn't mean that they're done to you. And so I think a large part of what Ninja teaches you is that you have to get comfortable with things happening without thinking that they're happening to you.
Right.
Because things happen all around you all the time. And I think that you can easily become a victim to your business, like the example that I gave of the clients that we just had to put things on hold for. And you can let that spin you into a cycle of, oh, woe is me, I don't have any business. Or you can use it to build the next piece of business. And I think that that's one thing that Ninja taught me. And then also just really everything you do, doing it in the capacity of how can I help other people? And it helped me so much to not think in terms of how can I win their business, but thinking much more in terms of how can I help them? Because if I help them enough times, they're going to want to hand me their business.
Right. Or refer you off to somebody who, because the reality is a lot of times too, and that's, where people, you keep talking about what is a sphere. Yes, probably some of those people in your direct sphere might use you to help buy or sell a house, but the more likelihood is, and we talk about this in Ninja, every person in your database probably knows 300 people.
Yes.
And it's those referrals that you're looking for, versus really kind of necessarily the people directly in that sphere. I want to come back though to the mindset thing and the victim mentality. And I know that, I'm not going to sit here and pretend, and I know you won't either, that you came right out of Ninja and all of a sudden it was guns a-blazing and you had business more, that you could have.
No.
And that's the thing that I really, reason why I really wanted to chat with you is because Sherry, your broker now, she, I don't know how many times she has said to me, if you want to talk to somebody who persevered and didn't give up on the system, it's Lisa. And so talk to me about that perseverance and how you just didn't give up in the process. And, like if I do my Ninja 9, I do my daily disciplines, I do my affirmations, I do my handwritten notes, I do my 50 live contacts a week, I update my warm list, hot list. I mean, you just kind of were just committed to that process.
And I think that the more you do something, the more comfortable you get doing it. So like I explained that those real estate reviews, I literally raised my hand and said, Don, it's not happening. And now they're just a part of what I do. I'm probably not as good as I should be. I don't know that I get 10 out a month or whatever our number is that we are supposed to do, but I really use them even when I see a glimmer of an opportunity. And so I think some of probably because of my background in marketing, I knew that there was going to be a period that was just building the brand and that I had to get really comfortable with the idea that that's what it was going to take, building the brand. I did more desk duties than I still do more desk duties than I want to admit. But just I feel like when you start to do these things enough, you start to believe in them and you start to see glimmers of fruition, the idea of always thinking of people in terms of what you can do to help them. So I had a gal that called while I was on desk duty, and she wanted to rent an apartment in Alpharetta. She wanted to spend, I don't know, $1,600 to $1,800 a month, and she had a giant German Shepherd. And if that doesn't all pan out, then you can add on top of it that she wanted a 6-month lease.
Wow.
So, I spent some time, just because I was there at desk duty anyway, and I had the time, I spent some time trying to help her and couldn't. And I think that's another thing that I've learned as an agent, is that you have to get really comfortable saying, I don't know, I'll find out for you, but I don't know, especially a new agent. So at any rate, I just stayed in touch with her and continued to say, what else can I do for you? Is there information on the area that I can give you? I knew that they were relocating here from California. I didn't have any clients at the time, or I had one client at the time. And so I spent all summer just constantly saying, what can I do to help you? What can I do to help you? What can I do to help you? They moved here last September, and they finally reached back out and said, we're settled, and we think we're ready for you to help us try and find a house. And in our first meeting, they were $1,600 to $1,800 a month rent. So in our first meeting, I was thinking maybe we're thinking $300, $350, I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark. And they were describing this house that they wanted. And they started with 20 acres, kid you not, 20 acres. We would like the new modern farmhouse look. The list went on. And I didn't even know how to address this. So I just said, the house that you want sounds lovely. I don't know that we can find a new build on 20 acres in Forsyth County. There's not a lot of really large lots, especially not, they're going to be more older homes, established, farmhouses, but not the new farmhouse look. At any rate, long story short, I said, there's a possibility that we might be able to look in some subdivisions and find what you're looking for. We're probably looking closer to an acre or two. But we're really probably around that, I think we're going to be somewhere upward of, 750. And they threw out, oh, well, that's not a problem. Our budget is 1.2.
Oh my gosh.
And so I just think that you never know. I mean, if you just keep that mentality of, it's my job to help them and I'm not tied to the outcome. And if I only help them with a $350,000 house, but they know 5 people that are moving from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I can, build my brand with them through this experience, then that made me, 5 more $300,000 houses that I get. So I think that's, a few of the things that just resonated with me and continue to resonate with me from Ninja is just constantly thinking about what can I do to help people. Not earn their business, but help them because the business will come.
I love that.
And then just that you really can't be tied to the outcome.
Yeah. I know too, you mentioned it, and I know you still do it. You mentioned the desk duty. And you guys actually have a great setup here for walk-in traffic. Because, and I'm not going to sit here and proclaim that each office is created equally, where the opportunities maybe aren't going to be the same. But I think too, the thing that I know Sherry has shared with me, and I see it too when I come up here, is you're in the office. You come into the office. You don't work from home. I mean, I'm probably sure you do work from home a little bit, but I always say that, if you're going to get up, get dressed, because that's another, show up is one of the Ninja 9.
Absolutely.
And, but you come in and if your opportunity strikes those who put themselves in a position for opportunity to come around. So I would think too, I know that's probably something that you believe in, and I got to come into the office. Yes.
And I think that as much as it's been, I've gotten some opportunities from desk duty and from, being here in desk duty, it's also amazing how much, this office in particular has a number of agents that have really been in the industry forever. And just the exposure to them and getting to see what they do that makes them successful, and seeing, having a question and being able to, yesterday, Koslinski, I say his last name wrong all the time, but he's one of our sages, and he's been an agent forever. He's been a broker. He's done it all, and I had a question that I probably would have taken me a couple of hours to get to the answer and the bottom of the answer. And I was working on a counter offer, and I needed the information quickly, and it was awesome to have. I mean, in 2 seconds, Ken said, "Oh, here's what you need to do, and call this person, and they'll be able to help you." And I had my answer 10 minutes later. And so I just think that opportunity of really getting to just be around people that know the industry is a huge thing about being in the office. And then I think you never really know what you're picking up or what you're hearing that's going to create opportunity later. So there's been instances where I've heard other agents discussing something that they're struggling with, or I've heard thinking, not really ever realizing that it's something that could help me in my career. And then I'll wind up in a situation, I'll get asked a question where maybe 6 or 8 months ago, my answer would have been, I don't know. And because of the exposure that I've gotten to agents that are, working complicated deals, or that, have a lot of business, and so they get to experience a lot of things, I'll know the answer. And that's been, in the beginning, it's hard because experience is how you get experience.
Right.
But it's hard to get experience in the beginning, so sometimes you have to live vicariously through the experience of other agents.
And to your point again, you got to put yourself in situations where you can actually benefit that.
Yes.
I've always said all along that you cannot learn this business from behind a computer screen.
Yep.
Behind a monitor.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to learning inventory, you got to get out, you got to see it, touch it, breathe it, smell it.
Yep.
You got to just,
Yes.
And so when I say come into the office, I don't necessarily mean come in and sit behind a computer. I'm saying you got to come in though and be around the people and everything else. And I think that's one of the cool things about our culture in general is, Ken, I'm sure, was happy to help.
Yeah.
And I know everybody in this office, probably has that same mentality.
Definitely.
And I would say as a company and a culture, if you were to call anybody up, they'd be, as long as they weren't going out the door getting ready to go show a client or go on a listing appointment, stop and help. So
absolutely, yeah.
Well, let's change gears, change it up just a little bit, because I'd like to hear, kind of get your perspective on what you're seeing going on in the market right now. I'm assuming you kind of pretty much work the whole Forsyth, Coming, that kind of thing.
So a little bit into Alfred and Milton, but mostly. Mm-hmm.
So what are you seeing out there right now?
Particularly in Coming, we've got low inventory in Coming anyway, and really in most of Forsyth County. But really, we're seeing the low inventory kind of be at that sweet spot price point, between $350 and $400. That's really the number that sells in a matter of moments here in Forsyth County. And that's where there really is no inventory. And so then the struggle becomes, there is, if there is inventory out there, and there is, but it's the 500 plus, which in this county just doesn't sell as quickly. Really what you're seeing is this drive towards new construction, because people want to be more in that 300 to 400 price range, maybe a little bit higher than that. But there's just no inventory here, but there is plenty of new construction going on in Forsyth County. So we're just seeing so much of this drive towards new construction, which, I think it's great. I love to see the county grow because I'm very tied to this county. But by the same token, it's a little bit of a challenge because, we all know building with dealers, working with builders, that it takes some of your, you don't get to practice your negotiation skills as much because they can close a lot of those doors. And
and they're at a place right now too where it's an interesting dynamic between builders and realtors. When the market is like it is right now with a lack of inventory, they feel like they can pretty much do whatever they want. And they have forgotten the days of where they really needed us. So tell me a little bit. You mentioned the new inventory, and a lot of the inventory is the new construction right now. So when you go on a listing appointment for a resale, how do you address that? In terms of explaining to the seller, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, we're going to be competing not only against other homes in the neighborhood here, but we got a lot of new construction around us that, So talk to me a little bit about what you do when you go on a listing appointment.
Sure. Obviously it depends a little bit on what price point I'm at. the 300 to 400 is an entirely different conversation than when I go on a listing appointment for the 500 plus. And I think that where you get into more of the competition and the issues with the new construction is more of that 500 plus.
Okay.
Only because people are thinking, well, I can spend this much money and get something new. Why wouldn't I get something new?
Right.
And even a lot of the new construction, as much of the new construction in this county isn't in that sweet spot price point that we need.
Are you finding, though, that the new construction at that price point, because I heard this, and I'm just curious if this is the case up here, that the homes are smaller from a square footage
without
standpoint?
a doubt, yes, all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that, well, I want to answer your question, because I think that when you, I remember sitting in a meeting, a Harry Norman meeting, not too long into my career, and somebody was talking about when they go on a very experienced agent, Tom Stocks, one of our best, was talking about when he goes on a listing appointment. And he said, first and foremost, I let the Harry Norman name sell myself. And I think that when you can find stats that then support that, I mean, yes, the Harry Norman name speaks for itself. That's why I knew I wanted to be a part of this firm. But you can also, without too much digging, find stats that support that. I was just on a listing appointment in a subdivision, and the subdivision is notorious for how long homes sit on the market.
Okay.
And it actually even is in that sweet spot price point. I mean, it's just one of those weird anomalies, and it just is. And agents know this, and I had written an offer contingent on a listing that I had in there, and the what would have been the co-op agent was like, oh, it's in there? No. So it just has this reputation.
Right.
And so, but I started looking at the stats, and despite the fact that this subdivision had a reputation of houses sitting on the market longer than most would at that price point, especially for the amenities that the homes and the subdivision were offering, the homes that had sold in the least amount of time were all listed with a Harry Norman agent.
Really?
And so I was able to break that stat out and say, listen, of the 15 homes that sold in the subdivision, this is the average days on market. But with a Harry Norman agent, it was literally cut in half.
That's awesome.
And I know that was, perhaps a little bit of luck. I spent a lot of time in marketing, so I know how to look at data and try and get it to say what you want it to say. But I do think that immediately on the listing appointment, Harry Norman and who we are and how we do things differently can stand out. But then I think that you also have to make, I have pretty frank conversations with my clients about how they can't have a home and want top dollar for their home and think that they're competing with new construction and not make their home move-in ready like a new construction home would be. And so I think you have to have a lot of those conversations up front. What do you think your home is worth? And then, kind of like what Kelley Blue Book does with a car. Like, well, is your home in excellent condition? Is it in good condition? Is it in poor condition? And half the time they'll be like, oh, it's in excellent condition. And I'm like, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's walk through your house and look. Like, as a buyer, if you were a buyer, there's dings on the wall. Is that excellent condition? Because if there were dings on a car, you wouldn't say that's excellent condition. And I feel like sometimes you have to have those conversations that may be a little bit scary, but to get buyers to realize, listen, if I want top dollar for my home and I'm competing with new construction, even if the home is a little bit smaller, but there's no dents or dings.
And it smells new.
And it, and so I think that that's one of the things when you know that you're competing with new construction that you have to do is really get sellers to understand they may have to put some money into their home before they put it on the market.
I love that. I love the analogy of the Kelley Blue Book. I'd not heard that. I'm going to steal that and use that and share it with others because, it's so much too about, and one of the things, not to go back to Ninja necessarily, but one of the things I love about Ninja is they talk about just having conversations with folks. And I love to, because, I'm kind of the statistics nerd. And I love the fact that let the numbers speak for themselves. And then that way it's not your opinion. It's the market. This is what the market's doing. This is what's happening. Good for us that we're leading the way. It's probably because we're having those conversations with sellers to say, look, here's what's going on in the market. I get it. You think your house may be worth $50,000 over what the market's telling us right now. That's all good and well. But
Yeah.
even if I were to get that for you, there's a thing called an appraisal.
Yes.
We got to get through that, you know,
Yes.
so there's lots of these variables. And if listing agents are just going in and they're just going in just to get the listing, regardless of the price, I don't think they're doing anybody a favor. So I love the fact that you use the statistics, have the hard conversations sometimes. And I would say that that's a differentiator probably for you that a lot of agents aren't doing.
Yeah.
So let's, you talked about Harry Norman and the Harry Norman name and how that kind of gives you instant street cred and everything else. Are there other things, that you appreciate that Harry Norman provides?
Yes. I mean, so probably because of my background, I just know how important marketing is and branding. And the resources that we have are ridiculous. I mean, as real estate agents, we get a gazillion things in our inbox. Like, I can build this for you. I can do this for you. And I love it because I take the ideas and then I bring them to our Jeff and I'm like, this is what I want to do. I just heard Jeff say to someone the other day, so I was showing someone something that Jeff had put together for me. And somebody said, I want you to do that. And, like kind of loudly screamed it across the office. Like, Jeff, I want you to do that for me. And Jeff's like, what? And he said, I want you to make what you made for Lisa. And Jeff's like, I make a lot of things for Lisa. Because you have these resources. And I think that that's one thing that can so often go untapped by Harry Norman agents is that we have such an ability to brand ourselves. We have such an ability to put out these incredible marketing pieces that other agencies aren't going to offer us the ability to put these out at almost no cost to us. I mean, maybe sometimes I'm buying, a colored paper or an envelope or something, fancy that I want to do with these marketing efforts, but the rest of it, I mean, the brains behind it, we don't pay a penny for that. And I there's nothing that I've handed Jeff and said, can you recreate this? Can you Harry Normantize this for me?
Yep. Yeah, and to your point, a lot of our competitors don't have the Jeffs where you can stand up in your office and say, "Hey, Jeff, I need this," or that kind of thing.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. I had him, and I've gotten approached from other brokerage firms saying, we see that you do things differently. And I think it's funny because it's part of why I would never leave Harry Norman, because I'm not going to get that if I join them. So even it makes the conversation so easy.
Right.
Jeff made me this wonderful logo and a stamp. And so I use it. One of the things that we learned in Ninja is writing the 2 notes every day, but another, I'm very I'm not going to be salesy. So I don't like the idea of putting your card in these notes that you're writing, because I think this is just personal opinion, but I think it can take the personalness out of the note. Like,
absolutely,
she's using the opportunity that I had a baby to remind me that she's a real estate agent. And but instead, if somebody gets a handwritten note, congratulations about the baby, and there is no card in it, they're like, wow, that's really cool. She, remembered, or, is there anything I could do? Can I drop off? Whatever, always also trying to incorporate the how can I help you? So anyway, I've had real estate firms, I make it a habit to write notes to the co-op agents that I work with. And I try and do it as soon as I think I'm going to get into a transaction with them. And maybe it's a little, devious, but I just know that it's going to win good graces. I know that they've probably never gotten a note from another agent that just says, like,
you're the first person who I've heard say that during the transaction. Like, sometimes they might send it after the fact.
Gotcha.
Say, had a great deal with you, would love to do another deal with you down the road, that kind of thing. But what you're saying is you're writing a note.
I try to drop it in the mail. If I see a house and I think my clients are going to make an offer on the house, I try and drop a note in the mail that day to that agent, just because I know it's going to make the process so much easier for me. But I don't put my business card in, so I use this stamp, and the stamp has my name, it has the Harry Norman logo, and it has all my contact information. And so I think in my head, well, if they want to keep it, they're just going to rip off, I always put it on the back flap envelope. They're just going to rip off the flap like I do with my Christmas cards, and then they'll have my contact information. And so sure enough, I've had other agencies that have said, like, we got your note and we see how you do things, and it's different, and can we sit down and talk? I'm like, well, so our marketing coordinator made that for me, and I said that, and if I come and join you, that resource going to be, didn't think so. And so it's very easy to just say, I'm very happy where I am, because you just have access to these amazing things at Harry Norman that you're not going to get elsewhere.
Yeah, well, as the receiver of several notes from you, I can attest to the fact that that is indeed the case, that you have that little customized stamp on there. And you are you practice what you preach in terms of writing the notes, because again, I've received several, and thank you for that. Any other differentiators for you personally that you kind of, in your short but very successful career, maybe things that you borrowed from your experience of the days of doing the marketing, or just any kind of thing that you think differentiates you from others in the marketplace?
I mean, consistency and patience. Yeah. I mean, I think that you have to be really comfortable with the fact that this is sales and marketing, and there's a life cycle.
Yeah.
And that it may be a year, it may be 2 years down the road that things come to fruition, but you just can't lose sight of the fact that there's a cycle, and that cycle is always happening. And I do think that there are things that have happened. Sherry jokes that she's like, you're going to get the easy transaction. I don't know. Maybe I will. It hasn't really happened yet. But taking all of that and not letting it be a stumbling block, but rather letting it be a building block, and thinking like, oh my gosh, now I know this is going to make it so much easier the next time. I mean, I promise you, the client that I picked up from Desk Duty that we're trying to find, a great price point home for, it's been a lot of work. I can't even fathom what my per hourly rate is going to wind up being from what should be a huge transaction when I finally get them sold. But the amount that I have learned and the opportunities that I've had to just engage with new builders in, write a contract. The client didn't want to use GAR forms and wanted to write an offer. And even to think about how to go about doing that. And granted, I talked them out of it because I showed them what it would look like if they let me do it and what it would look like if we went with the GAR forms. But I think you really just have to be patient and know that, I can't beat a dead horse more than to say that you just cannot get too tied to that end result. You really have to just know that, have faith that eventually it's going to come.
And that you're trying to help them.
Yes. Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
The paycheck at the end of the day is a byproduct of you delivering exceptional service, great market expertise, and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, to close this out, Lisa, first of all, thank you so much for your time. This has been a true joy for me to sit here and have this conversation with you. You've learned a lot, picked up a few things that, again, I'm going to steal. And the thing earlier, where you say you get something, you see something come through, and you say, hey, Jeff, can I do this?
Yeah.
We call that RDI, rip off, duplicate, and improve.
Oh, there you go.
So that was some RDI there that you just pulled off. But is there anything that you'd like to finish us off with? Any closing thoughts? There any things that we haven't talked about that you'd like to share with the audience?
No, other than just really, I think, when I signed up for Ninja, I don't think Harry Norman had decided that they were going to reimburse us. So we just thought that I think we found that out. I was a part of the first installation, so we found that out. And so that just became, gravy on the cake, especially as you close out the week, you know what a valuable tool you've been given. But I think that as new agents, we don't know what we don't know, and the Ninja installation will open your eyes so much to avenues that you can go down to be successful. And I think the thing that you know that Ninja is honest and Ninja is true because everything about Ninja requires work on your part. None of it is just some quick fix. And so I think that I can't say enough that it's worth that investment and the tools that you pick up. I mean, literally, I don't know where I would be in my career if I hadn't have done Ninja in the beginning of it. And
speaking of that career, I know you've just been gangbusters in your first 2 years, and I'm really personally excited for you because in a lot of cases, year 3 is where just things start really taking off. And I know you've put all the hard work and effort into it, so I can't wait to see what 2020 looks like for you. I'm sure that, we're going to be recognizing you at company-wide award events for the years to come. And again, thank you, Lisa, so much for your time, sharing of your ideas and everything else. We really, really appreciate you.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity. It was fun.